All right.
Can I share my screen?
Yes. And remember when you do you have any audio in your portfolios?
No,
Okay.
no. Um, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. This is my website. So I'm a 3D artist. I'm Russian and I moved to US in 2013. I have around maybe less than 2 years of experience, and I have a background in Maya, ZBrush, and I recently started to learn Blender. And I like to both model and sculpt. One of my biggest hobbies is reading comics and manga. My latest favorite are Jujutsu Kaisen by Kege Akutami and The Villainess is a Marionette by Yirim Han. And then this is my contact information. I'm gonna start with the pink lady. This was my piece for a final for a class, and this was my first time sculpting a human bust ever for my first class ever in ZBrush. I spent a lot of time sculpting out her face and trying to get the features right. I had a lot of struggles creating her hair and also the clothing because I didn't have a lot of experience modeling in ZBrush. And also the smoke was really hard to get right, but I
Smoke
think
is a
in the end
challenge.
it turned out pretty good. The next piece is Snow Witch. This was a piece I made, the first piece I ever made in Blender. I started out with a sword and then I just kept adding things on. This was just my practice piece. This was my first time ever sculpting a hand as well, or modeling a hand that was that can be used for posing or animation. And also I wanted to play a little bit with particle system and the voids that Blender provided, which was a really interesting experience. And this is what the sword looks like by itself. This is what the piece looks like in the program. And this is what the UVs look like. So my next piece is actually two of them. Originally they were made for a class. It's a strawberry and a clock. This is what the strawberry looks like. And from the back, and this is what the clock looks like. And this is the concept art that I used as a reference. So this was made for a class, but I didn't like how the pieces turned out in the end because the textures were way too simple and kind of ugly. So I recently pulled them into Blender and fixed the models a little bit, and I created new textures and hand painted all of them. And I think it looks really good. And the last piece is Step Kitchen. This was made as a final project as well. This was made in Maya. The textures, the little fridge on the side right here was hand painted in Photoshop with a little bit of help of Substance Alchemist for the indents in the fridge. And the rest of the textures were made in Substance Designer procedurally. The wood and the fireplace and all the little metal details. And this is what the reference looks like. The concept art was made by Melanie Baptista. And this is all of my work that I wanted to show you. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for sharing, Ekaterina. It's really cool to kind of, first off, it's lovely to see you again, right? I've seen you in class, but it's usually just your name and your pretty art. To start, I want to give you big props, kudos to your color, your eye, I think your way of being able to kind of conceptually create cool story with the little pieces that you make. That is so rad. And it's one of the things that a lot of artists, when they're learning, just kind of neglect. And I want to encourage you to keep doing that. You can go ahead and pull your portfolio back up, because I want to comment on a few pieces, because some of this for you is closer to being incomplete rather than final work, in my opinion. I love that you took the strawberry and the honey pot to another pass, because I think it paid off. It looks much nicer. But you'll notice the two on the left feel a lot stronger than the two on the right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Your bust and your strawberry piece are feeling a lot stronger than your wizard and your kitchen piece turnaround. And I don't think that they're far off from really being finished. It has to do with what your final output will be, your final rendering place. So even though you made the pieces one in Blender and one in Maya, great. Where are they being rendered in for this shot?
The Snow Witch was rendered in Blender, and the kitchen was it was a screenshot from Unity. I don't have access to the files anymore because I lost them. I would have created an actual render, but I couldn't find them.
Yeah. The shot, it being a black screen, a kind of a low res render, some of those things are kind of hurting how it looks. And in Unity, there's a whole art and lighting pipeline that you'll want to be considerate of. That the bake is missing. You've got a lot of components missing in the real-time renderer that can really help your piece look stronger. Black backgrounds are usually not great for just to start off with. I think that there might be an exception for that with your wizard, because I know he's supposed to be pulling his hands out of the darkness, and so I think in that case maybe you could make an argument for a black background working there. But it's so dark and we're losing so much detail, and the lighting render in Blender is not nearly, I think, accurate enough. There's no ray tracing, there's no and these are just technical solves for already a very strong foundation in what you're creating. Like, it's a cool piece, it's a cool story, we just need to render it better. And same thing with the piece from Unity. You don't have those pieces anymore. Maybe instead then you trash that one and do another one. You're always going to be criticized most harshly by your weakest piece when it comes to a portfolio. You're better off if having it just a couple of pieces feeling much stronger than more pieces that are incomplete. So then if you're not feeling good about it, just take it off and keep going. I don't want to take up too much time. I want to let Mariella and Craig say a few things. I'm sure have more pieces to chime in with.
Yeah,
Great, thank
I
you.
remember when you made that bust, I was like so impressed. I think you have a really strong kind of natural ability in terms of like your skill and your art. You just seem to, it just kind of like resonates with you. I feel like you kind of have that, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would agree with Renee. I think like having the like if I were just looking at this, yeah, the black backgrounds almost kind of distract me a little bit. You could consider taking your little scene and like putting it in an environment or like adding to it, because I think that might be a really cool little like environment piece where you have other little assets, um, you know, and then have like maybe like an outdoor area that's kind of part of it. You know, I guess it kind of depends on what kind of 3D art you want to do. Do you want to do characters? Obviously, you have a strong eye for anatomy. Do you want to do assets? So I would kind of like focus, you know, if you're not really into doing environments, maybe removing kind of like that scene. And yeah, I think that's really the only thing that I noticed. I don't think I see your name. Was your name on your website? I don't.
Yeah, at the top.
Oh,
Right
there
here.
we go. Okay, you're at the top. Okay, cool. Yeah, I really. So if you scroll down again, let's see. Yeah, I'm almost thinking like you may not necessarily need the other eye because you already have like you're kind of displaying them as you're scrolling. So I would maybe just not even have them also on the bottom, if that makes sense, because you have like 4 squares of the art, but then you have 2 of them as you scroll down. So you may just want to just have it so when you scroll, you're just looking at the work and not having to click on anything, if that makes sense.
Oh, are you talking about these?
Yeah. So like those are really large, and then it just kind of goes down to a gallery view. So I would maybe remove the gallery view and just have like the
Okay.
larger images, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think your work itself is really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Mhm.
So you mentioned how I should choose either the anatomy stuff or the assets. I don't really have a preference for either of them, so I'm not really sure what to do with that.
I think
So
Renee probably knows.
yeah, this is the I'll
Yes.
this is gonna be I was gonna chime in too with some more professional stuff, but I wanted to talk about the art first because it's so fun to talk about your art. It's just so pretty from the start. Like you start off with a real strong eye. Anyway, before I get down that rabbit hole again, when it comes to the 3D art industry, it's kind of tough to break into in certain avenues of it. That's not necessarily the case in others, though. Like for example, um, maybe less sexy tech startups will require an artist, and it's kind of easy to get them some assets. For example, they're working on a 3D medical application that require some visual imaging of like human body parts or something like a heart or a liver or whatever. Those are a lot easier to get kind of contract work for. And therefore, they'll be looking to see your ability to create assets similar to your strawberries, similar to unique prop work. Prop asset creation is the most junior in the industry as far as what you can create because it doesn't undermine or break other components that go into developing 3D environments. Character work is probably the hardest to break into because it requires the most understanding of human form, which is very difficult. And there's also a technical 3D modeling prowess you need to be aware of for these animated characters that are going to be usually have moving parts. So you have to understand how to do the topology for the movement. And it's also something that humans have a very they have a very clear understanding of what a human looks like. So if something's off even slightly, you get that uncanny valley thing. So to be a 3D artist in character work, you typically have to be very senior. Environment falls in this interesting kind of in between / branching off of from props because you can create an environment with props. But if you're only using props, you may not break an environment. And what does that mean? Environment work is usually done with a lot of modular assets where there's some technical foundation that you have to solve for and respect throughout the process. And if you change that early on, you can break a whole scene accidentally shifting a pivot. Now all of the walls don't match anymore. So Environment art usually requires a slightly more senior role than a prop artist, because a prop artist doesn't break a whole scene the same way. If mistakes are made, mistakes are made. So you may be considerate of that when you're planning out the kind of portfolio to build up for jobs. Focus just on making props right now. And if your props start turning into humanoids, like statues and people, then perhaps you're starting to feel that you want to make more character work. And then at that point, you can probably start expanding from there. If you start making a lot of props, but you want to put them in a room, and the next thing you know, you've built this really cute little window scene with a little flowy curtain or whatever, you found yourself leaning in more towards environment work. In video game art, you can do both, but the trick is that you don't show both. You don't show both your characters and your environments if you want to get a games job, usually. I recommend having a character page and an environment page if you're interested in both, and only just turning on one when you apply for all of the environment jobs. Video games specifically is so elite about who they get to pick that when an environment artist sees a portfolio and it has a bunch of people in it or humans in it, they're like, well, this person clearly wants to be a character artist. Why would we do that? You know, they want the very best environment artist, somebody who lives, breathes, eats, sleeps environments. And while that's not usually true of the artists themselves, it tells a story that they tell themselves when they look at your work. So your portfolio should be shifting and moving with like an ebb and flow of what you want in your own career path. So if you're unsure where to start, I recommend just starting with props, like you've been doing, honestly, like you did with the that strawberry is really cute. I like that strawberry a lot. And also great job on sharing the original concept artists of the work that you're pulling from. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Did that help? I hope it didn't make more questions for you.
No, I get it.
Okay.
I think that, yeah, what Renee said is basically an outline for how you might want to proceed. You were two surprises to me, Kate. First of all, you know, I had you in 288, 289, and you did really good graphic work for those projects. You know, I was really impressed with the work you did there. And so when you came in here and said you were a 3D artist, like that came out of nowhere for me. And then when you popped up with this portrait, this bust up front, I thought that must be hand painted or, you know, digitally painted, not a 3D modeling project at all. And I was just surprised at the strength of it, because that's one of the hardest things to do in 3D, as far as I'm concerned, is to make a human figure that doesn't look plastic or, you know, modular or very stiff. And this was a very fluid piece. But I have to agree with Renee that the business being what it is, doing prop work is probably your avenue to get in. But for your own sake, keep working on human anatomy and figure drawing and working in ZBrush or something else that makes you feel comfortable modeling in 3D the human figure if you want to get into character work later. But you do have a charming style. You do have a good sense of color. You have a sense of form and everything else that's lacking with some people. And I'm always drawn to that bust, and how strong a piece that is for where you've been. So listen, when you get this recording, keep replaying what Renee said, because I think that's going to be your ladder for what you want to do. But yeah, you have an eye for what you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're like an illustrator, but with 3D, and that is so cool.
Yeah, that's
So
very rare.
Mhm.
I mean, there's more and more of that going on as the software gets more sophisticated, but understanding illustrative principles can only, color, light, form, anatomy, composition, those things are the foundations for everything that you want to do. And if you understand those things, which you have a really good beginning grasp of, you can only just soar, as far as I'm concerned. So
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay.
Do you know what kind of art you would be interested in doing, like video games or film or like?
I don't really think I know enough about those fields yet, so I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I don't mind experimenting.
Mhm. Okay.
Oh, yeah, at your age, experimenting is what you should be doing all the time. Actually,
Mhm.
experimenting is what we should all be doing all the time, but
Yep.
yeah, just you find your way. But I think Renee is right, and just keep uh, for your own entertainment, do the character work, the human character, the figure work in 3D, but put together a portfolio with more of your prop kind of work or environments, but props first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And don't stop experimenting with the tools. I know that you're leaning into a lot of Blender, which is wonderful because it's free, but Substance and PBR software is the next generation of where this is going. So don't neglect those tools either. Most 3D artists in the field use multiple tools through their process. They don't do everything in one location. So you try it out. Unreal also, it's a free engine. You can play around with some visual effects in there too. And all of these tools have a lot of documentation and YouTube tutorials and things that you can keep going. And the industry is always shifting and changing. So as soon as you think you're caught up, you're definitely behind already. So don't get comfortable in one place.
Yeah. Well, it's like I told you in class, that I have a friend who's been in the business for a long, long time, but every 6 months, he sits down and evaluates what new software he has to learn. It's part of the process. It's what we do.
Yep.
All right.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come.